Please welcome Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, in conversation with Blake Berman, host of The Hill on News Nation.
Secretary Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security. I'm back. I don't think they're here for me. I think they're here to hear from you.
I don't know. You're pretty popular.
Thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate it. So I think the context here is important because you have a really big department.
Yes, it is a big department.
You oversee CBP, ICE, Coast Guard, TSA, Secret Service, FEMA, cybersecurity, and Citizens and Immigration Services.
Yeah.
That's not everything as well.
We also have science and technology, INA, intelligence and analysis. We have some of our agencies that do a lot of our intelligence work and analyst work. So, I had described my job to people that don't necessarily know the Department of Homeland Security that well, is that we have jurisdiction over everybody that is in this country that would come into this country or leave, every product or good that is in this country or would come in or leave our country, and then anything that's on the internet. If it's communicated, sold, or done on the internet, we have jurisdiction over that as well. And then 10 of the 16 critical infrastructures we're responsible for keeping safe. So our electrical grid, our water systems, those entities.
Try to get to a lot of this, not all of it here. But News Nation's covered immigration and the border more than anyone. So I want to start there. You were in the cabinet meeting with the president last week. He said something fascinating that I don't think a lot of people picked up on. And when he said it, I was like, wait a minute. The One Big Beautiful Bill had $170 billion for all things border immigration, right? And the president said to you, he said, I don't think we're going to need so much of it because we had low numbers come in, have been having low numbers come in. I'm not sure how much of it we want to spend. Speaking to you, you may want to think about that. You may actually think about saving a lot of money because the wall's largely been built. Have you thought about that, Secretary, or do you think that you will actually spend all of that money?
Well, that's what I love about this president, is that we need the resources to do the job, but he's always looking for opportunities to save the taxpayers money and to send money back to those individuals and families that are raising their kids here in this country. That's one of the reasons that he ran for office originally, was on our country's debt. He recognizes that that's a national security concern. And so absolutely, one of the things that we spend a lot of our time doing is analyzing every contract, analyzing every single dollar that's spent through our department. We are one of the larger departments and agencies in the federal government with one of the smallest budgets.
So do you think
So what he was talking to specifically in that cabinet meeting was the wall.
Yeah, the wall.
Maybe you don't need all that money for the wall because we've done such a great job securing the border. We'll look at all of that. The one thing that we didn't do the first term is the structure of the wall was built. About 700 plus, almost 800 miles of structure was built, but they never did get the chance to put in the technology around it, the surveillance equipment, what we needed for cameras in order to really secure it. So we do need to finish that type of investment around the wall that was already built and then finish the rest of the structure and do what we can. So that my goal every day is not just to go out and put more officers and more CBP guys on the border. We should be using the latest technology to fight off cartels and threats that we have, but also put in a situation where we protect more of our officers. If we can put in surveillance equipment and cameras that make sure we don't need as many agents down there all the time, we can use our human resources better and keep them more safe. That should be our goal.
We've been seeing the immigration raids play out. There was the scene, for example, last week, which we covered live out in California. There's been a question, especially among conservatives, about what needs to happen at farms, especially as it relates to undocumented workers. There's some within your party who say every undocumented worker, every illegal immigrant needs to go, and anything short of that is quote-unquote amnesty. Help me work through the policy here, because right now there's an estimated 320,000 undocumented immigrants working on American farms. Is it the position of the Trump administration that every single one of the 320,000, give or take, should be deported?
The president has been very clear from the beginning that we are going to uphold the law and follow the law. There aren't going to be any safe places where we'll tell criminals you can go here and be completely safe. We're going to make sure we're going after those who perpetuate violence and trafficking and drug trafficking and go get them and remove them from this country. So this facility in California was a marijuana grow facility. And we had built a large case and an investigation on who was there and what they were doing. And if you remember, we've brought in over 360, I believe, criminals that we have brought into detainment. Many of them there had charges against them that were pending or they were convicted of murder,
Right.
of rape and trafficking, and 14 different children were there as well. 9 or 10 of them were unaccompanied, which means they were working at this facility without a known parent or relative there with them. And we also had working at that facility people who were charged and convicted of child trafficking and human trafficking and sex trafficking. So we will go places that we know there are known criminals where we've built a case to go get those individuals and help protect and find our kids.
So known criminals and violent criminals, as I've just heard you say it. But among those, again, roughly 320,000 who are not known criminals, who are not violent criminals, and are undocumented and working at farms, is the expectation, Secretary, that those individuals as well will be deported?
Oh, well, there will never be amnesty under President Trump. We are putting our priorities in place and where he promised the American people when he ran for office that he would make America safer, that he would go after criminals. So that's what we're targeting right though, is those individuals who have criminal records or charges against them. I've gone to probably 10 different countries where most of these individuals came from and negotiated with their countries security agreements that give us more background information on who they sent to us. So Guatemala, Colombia, Honduras, we're headed to Ecuador and Argentina. They share with us the criminal backgrounds that they have on the individuals that they know are in our country that will help us remove them even quicker. So that's our priority, is to do that, remove those individuals, those with final removal orders, so that we have an opportunity to do exactly what the president said.
Okay.
I would encourage everybody, though, in this, if people are here in this country illegally, go home. I mean, the law is the law, and we are upholding the law. And the president is very clear that he doesn't believe that the law should apply to some people and not to others, and that there should be consequences for some people and not for others. They have the opportunity right now to self-deport. We will buy their plane ticket. When they land, they will be able to get $1,000 in their hand to care for their families, and they get the chance to come back. And so that's what I think is so remarkable, is that we will let them come back the right way, and we're facilitating that today. So every individual that's here in this country that's concerned, or every farmer out there that has somebody that's working for them that's concerned, work with getting them home, and so they can come back and get the right way.
At the end of, you are, as you very well know, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. And I'll do a story, whatever the issue is, probably once a week. And this quote from the former FBI Director, Christopher Wray, sticks out to me. He said, Secretary, in April of 2024, he testified up on Capitol Hill. He said, "Our most immediate concern has been that individuals or small groups will draw twisted inspiration from events in the Middle East to carry out attacks at home. But now increasingly concerning is the potential for a coordinated attack here in the homeland, akin to the ISIS-K attack that we saw in Russia." That was Christopher Wray, April last year. From your perch as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, does that still remain, what he said then, the most immediate concern now?
As far as immediate concern from those who would wish to do us harm from the Middle East, I would say it is one of the top 2 or 3 concerns. I would say that we have removed, since President Trump has been in office, over 600 individuals that are on the known or suspected terrorist list. Do we still have sleeper cells in this country? Absolutely. Are we getting up every single day to find them and get them out of this country? Absolutely. That's one of our very top priorities, is to make sure we're identifying those individuals, and our agencies within the Department of Homeland Security are partnering with the FBI, partnering with the Department of Justice to use resources to get them out as soon as possible. But that threat is very real, because once they got here—
What, as you view it right now? Because you're in the role right now.
I can't say a biggest threat, because I have so many I deal with every day. We have the threat from terrorists that are in our country today that we need to remove. We also have the crimes that are happening on our streets by those individuals that are murderers and rapists that affect families immediately. You can't ever bring that person back to their family. But I would say our critical infrastructure is extremely vulnerable. One thing that the Department of Homeland Security did not do well under the last administration was to protect our electrical grid. We did not protect people's personal information. You remember these hacking attempts that were successfully done called Salt Typhoon and Volt Typhoon. China proved that they can hack into our electrical system and shut it down. They can shut down our water systems. Those are things that CISA, which is one of my agencies, is supposed to be out there hunting down those bad guys and hardening our systems so that they can't do that. I think one of the scariest moments I had during my nomination process was when I got a briefing from CISA, which is the cybersecurity agency of the nation. They said to us, we don't know how a Salt Typhoon happened or how to prevent it in the future. And that's not acceptable. So we have to partner with private industry, with technology companies, those that have knowledge in these areas and also operate overseas in some of these countries that can give us information that we need in order to harden our systems to protect people's information. We live in a country that isn't very patient when their phone doesn't work or their lights don't come on. So
I'm going to get to TSA in a second.
Yes, that's
speaking
true.
Of,
that's true. But so we need to make sure that this country is stable, not just from not having terrorists here and not having murderers, but also how do we keep the lights on and protect people's personal information as well.
We saw the horror in Texas on July 4th and the days following. We all know how awful that was. Yeah. There was a situation in Arkansas earlier this year where the governor, you're also in charge of FEMA, which is why I bring this up, or FEMA reports up to you. The Arkansas governor, Sarah Sanders, who was President Trump's press secretary in the first administration, had to send multiple letters for help after deadly tornadoes. The entire Arkansas delegation, all Republicans, had to send letters as well asking for federal help. You've talked about remaking FEMA. I'm from Miami, Florida. I remember Hurricane Andrew as a kid. And the whole Gulf and Southeast, et cetera, is at the start of hurricane season. If in Arkansas, Sarah Sanders had to send letters, and the delegation there had to send letters, as you think about remaking FEMA, how can you assure, Secretary, that when disaster strikes, that the states are not going to be begging for help?
Well, the president's vision for FEMA is that we would empower states to be able to respond to their constituents much more than what FEMA has done in the past. And so I think you've seen how he's already changing FEMA to the latitude that we have. There's a few changes we'll have to make through Congress that are statutory requirements. How the program operates and the continuation of government, FEMA is responsible for, on our very worst day in this country, the horrible thing happens and we lose all of our leadership. FEMA is the agency that ensures the continuation of government. So it is a big responsibility that FEMA has, not just in responding to disasters, but what it does as far as government services and how the United States of America would operate in a crisis situation. But Sarah and I were talking from the moment that those tornadoes happened, and back and forth and talking and getting her application in and working through it. What we did in Texas was that some of the reforms we put into place hit the ground immediately. As soon as I was in Texas, we had cut through the bureaucratic red tape and the rules and regulations that were left over from the Biden administration, so that we immediately pre-deployed millions of dollars to Texas so that they could run their response.
What does remaking it look like?
Remaking it looks like, so FEMA has always supposed to been in the role of where the local responders are always the ones who deliver the response. The state comes in and manages the response. And then the federal government is supposed to support that. The federal government was never supposed to come in and run an emergency response. We were supposed to support what the local officials and the state does because that's their people and they know their communities and what they need right away. Instead, what has happened over the years is the bureaucracy of the federal government has taken over and everybody has looked to FEMA to be the immediate response when FEMA was too broken and too bloated and too much paperwork and processes that it wasn't responsive. In Texas, immediately as soon as the governor asked for the disaster, he asked me, I called the White House, within hours it was there. Within the flooding, we had Coast Guard and Border Patrol resources that were there within hours. FEMA was there within 5 hours. People were on the ground, but all at the request and managed by the local officials and the governor, which is how it should be.
Along the lines of bloated government, your agency was set up after 9/11. It was a
Right.
response to September 11th, which is nearly 25 years ago. I ticked through the list.
Yeah.
USCIS, CBP, ICE, Coast Guard, TSA, Secret Service, FEMA, CISA. I believe it's 22 agencies and give or take 260,000 people. You've been in this job now about 6 months, right? Almost to the day. Do we need to sit back and take a look at DHS? Does it need to be like this right now? Is it time to break some of it up and put some of it elsewhere?
We are consolidating several of the different entities within DHS, streamlining the processes. The task and the mission of the Department of Homeland Security is to protect the homeland, to secure it, and the people that live here, and to do so with integrity and efficiency. So that is what we are working every day. There are broken agencies in there, but if you look at each of those agencies, streamlining them and helping them be responsive and breaking down the silos between them will make our country more secure. So I don't believe that any of them should be moved, but they do need to communicate to each other. Many of them were not even working together or talking to each other.
Not move, but streamline and better.
Yes, and the president's, that's what I think is fantastic about this president. President Trump regularly has meetings with, even between cabinet secretaries. Myself, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, and Pam Bondi will meet on a regular basis as a national security strategy and have us in the room, so where you see this whole of government approach to what each of us is doing. How can military help us with the operations that we have in making sure we're deporting these criminals? You know, what do we need as far as immigration judges so people can get their processes, paperworks, and hearings faster? And so that kind of cooperation has never happened. I hope everybody recognizes this is really unprecedented to have this much cooperation between different departments and cabinet secretaries in an administration.
Let me leave you here with a little, somewhat of a lighter note, because the other day you announced, TSA announced, you actually said in the announcement, quote, that basically the shoes off policy at the airports, that we all go to the airport. Everybody's, wow, look at that.
Yeah. The big question I have is, did you all get to leave your shoes on?
So
I want to make sure it's happening at every airport.
Here's the question that I have. Because
I always feel like I have to follow up and say, okay, are they doing it for sure?
Here's how I started my week, Secretary. I woke up, I went about my morning, I went to the local Staples because I had to renew my TSA pre. And I paid my $77.50 to renew my TSA pre. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm guessing a lot of other people have the same question.
Why do I need pre-check?
Do we need pre-check anymore? A, do we need it? B, what's the difference in sort of what does the future at the airports look like?
Well, hopefully the future of an airport, where I'm looking to go, is that you walk in the door with your carry-on suitcase, you walk through a scanner and go right to your flight.
Just like that?
Takes you 1 minute to get there.
How far away are we till that?
I'm working with several different companies with technologies to give us competitive bids on what they actually can do. And you will see us pilot this at a couple of airports before it gets implemented nationwide. But I just want you to know, the day I walked in the door, I started questioning everything TSA does. You still need pre-check because if you want to leave your electronics in your bag and
so that's the only
like that.
Is that the only reason?
There's a few things, but I will tell you, the liquids, I'm questioning, so that may be the next big announcement, is what size your liquids need to be. We're looking at, our scanners. What we have put in place in TSA, a multi-layered screening process that allows us to change some of how we do security and screening, so it still is safe. It is still a process that is protecting people who are traveling on our airlines, but it has to make sense. It has to actually do something to make you safer. I don't think that was questioned under the Biden administration. I kept wondering if we were doing things just to slow people down or what it was, but TSA is working on the technology that we have available to us if we deploy it correctly.
So it's just simply
that you can walk in, if you've got a carry-on bag, you should be able just to walk through their screeners, their scanners, and go right to your flight.
All right.
Fingers crossed, that's what I'm working on.
We'll leave it there. She is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security.
Yes.
Madam Secretary, we greatly appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks for
Appreciate
being with us. Kristi Noem, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.